So before we do any gluing, we need to throw a rough sand on the top and the bottom of the foam. I would recommend a 220 grit. It's not real rough, so it won't create divots, and it's not so smooth that you're not getting anything accomplished. So the reason we do that is to break the surface tension on the top and allow the glue to settle in every corner, every inch basically of the foam. So take your sandpaper, and I'm going to do this outside. I'm not going to do it in the house because this pink stuff will get everywhere, and my wife still loves me at this point, and I'd like to keep it that way. So just going to do a rough sand over the whole thing. And again, do this outside or in your garage because this foam will get everywhere, and it's not real good to breathe it. So just keep that in mind also while you're sanding. Wear a respirator, some kind of mask. If you can't do it outside, if you have a room in your house where you're not worried about getting pink stuff everywhere, that's fine, but you don't want to breathe the particles. So we want to do that on this, and we want to do it on the top of the board also. And by top, I mean the point that the foam is going to sit on this. So just give it a rough sand also, and once that's done, I'll come back and we'll start with the liquid nails. Put the tube in, pull the grip. That's going to create tension on the inside, and as the pressure builds going this way, it's going to of course force the caulk out this way, and that's what we want. So we're all set with this. Now that the sanding has been done, I just take a dry cloth, old cloth, it used to be a paint cloth I think, and wipe everything off. Make sure that there's nothing left on the surface of either piece. They've both been sanded and they are ready to go. So now we're going to take our liquid nails, which is ready. Oh, hey, when I just hit the camera a few times. And we're going to start laying down the liquid nails. There's really no method to the madness. However works for you, works for me. Okay, and you want to release the tension, otherwise it's going to keep spurting out the top, and you don't want that. Well, at least not in this instance. So take your tool and start spreading it around like you're doing drywall mud, if you know what that is. If you don't, that's what Google's for. We want it in a real thin layer. We don't want humps. Humps are bad. Trying to think of something clever to say so there's not dead air, but yeah, it's not happening. Make sure you get it all the way to the edge. That's probably the most important point, is because you don't want it to fray up on the ends. You want to get a real good tight seal on the edge. Looks like I may need a little bit more. You have about a 10-minute work time with this also, which is good. And by work time, I mean it's not going to dry up on you. It'll still be tacky for 10 minutes. So if it takes you a few minutes to get it all the way to the edges, then you're still fine. I'm going to get a little more over here. Isn't this fun? Dead air is great. Okay, I think we are pretty well covered now. It's okay if it's thin in a few layers or in a few places of you, as long as you have all of your edges good and covered. So even areas like this, it looks like it's thin, but there is still enough there to cover, so you won't have to worry about that. Alright, so we're ready for our board, our foam, excuse me. We're going to take our nicely trimmed edge, place it down exactly on the edge. Before we tighten it up, we're going to twist it just a tad on the board to give it a nice firm seal. See if that's still in the frame. Okay. Now we take our ruler, if I can find my metal ruler, which is nowhere to be found. So we will just use the small metal ruler, go down the edge, make sure that it's all lined up. Looks good. And now we're going to weigh it down because we want it to be completely flat. So when it's dry, the board doesn't warp. So what we do for that is take one of the other pieces that we haven't done yet, lay it on the top, match it up with the piece on the bottom, like so. So now that we have our foam attached to the MDF panel on the bottom, and we have another flat surface on top of the foam, we need to put something heavy on top to make sure that there's no warping while it's drying. Once it's dry, if it is warped in any place, it's going to be almost impossible to get the warp out. So you want to put something heavy. You want to make sure that all four corners of the board are perfectly level, and that's pretty much all that you're looking for with this. So our boards have set up overnight. They are dry now. Take the bricks off, check the edge, make sure that it's level, and it is. So we are good on this piece. Now we'll do the same for the other 5 pieces, which I'll do off camera. I'll shave the edges off those, and once that is done, I will set them up on the table so you can see how it looks when it's flush and side by side all the way down.